Since the building is about 46,338 square feet, at least 155 parking spaces will be required. The site plan provides 155 spaces for the site with 6 ADA compliant stalls and meets off-street parking requirements. Staff has had a chance to review the proposal for the site plan and the plat and determined that it meets existing city code requirements for landscaping, design, setbacks, parking, and all other requirements in the CG General Commercial Zone. The last thing I would like to show you is the proposed elevations for the building. And staff recommends approval with one condition, and this condition ended up getting in your staff report under the site plan, and it's under the approval, the model motions for the approval and the model motions for continuing. And I'll just read that real quick, and if you have any questions about that, Erin will have to answer those. So the condition is, if the existing sewer lift station located on the east end of the property has been abandoned by the city before construction of the sewer connection, then the developer must connect the new sewer on Garden Drive. If the sewer lift station has not been abandoned by the city, then the developer must connect upstream of the lift station through a new manhole installed by the developer. So that's what I have. I can take any questions.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for Riley?
Did you say that was in this? Did you say that one was in the site plan?
Yeah, so it's in the model motions for the site plan.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. If you need me to pull them up on the screen, I can also do
No.
that when you guys go to make your motion. You see it?
I see it.
Okay.
Riley, I'm looking at, two questions I have for you. I'm assuming the only entrances are the two on there's one on the far east and the far west sides. Those are the two entrances into the building area
Let me come back over here. Yes.
off of Garden Drive.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we're looking at elevations, the front elevation, is that the one that will border Garden
That's what you'll see from State Street.
from
State
State
Street.
Street?
Yeah.
Okay.
This long one is what you see from State Street. This entrance
Is the,
is
the
right
back.
here.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, so the entrance would be
Mhm.
the back, from the back. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then my other question is, I know that they're required to provide a masonry wall along those residential borders.
Mhm.
If there's existing fencing there,
Yes.
do they not, can they just put that like against it or?
Yes.
Okay.
So they have options. Our city code permits that it's built up against that fence if the residential owner does not want their fence demolished.
Okay.
Or they also have the option of making an agreement with them to not put a masonry wall in that section. Because of continuity, we would probably recommend that it's just against
Yeah.
that fence. But yeah, they have options.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Any other questions for Riley? Okay. Seeing none, is the applicant here? Thank you, Riley.
Mhm.
Would you want to come up and tell us your name and say anything you'd like?
Well, good afternoon. My name is Jacob Bryant, and I think staff covered the details of the plan very well. I think the only thing I would add is we did have an employee of our group talk with the residents regarding the fence as to what they would like to do. And I think our plan right now is just to move forward with the masonry fence as outlined in the plans. And I did receive word from the city this morning that it looks like the lift station is going to be connected and removed. Rather, the sewer line is going to be connected so the lift station can be removed. But this is certainly conditional upon one or the other.
Right. And you're okay with that condition, either
Correct,
way?
yeah. In fact, we submitted plans both with and without connecting below the lift station.
Okay. That sounds good. Anything else you'd like to say before we maybe ask questions or?
Not at this time.
Okay. So when you're thinking about proceeding with the masonry wall, you would do that abutting any neighbor's existing fences? Is that what you're thinking?
That's correct.
Okay. And I know there was some concern about elevation on the fence line. Is that anything that you're concerned about or anything you've noticed about different elevations?
I'm not aware of any concern
Okay.
on the elevation of the fence line, other than it's required to be an 8-foot masonry wall.
Yeah. I know we just had a public comment that came in the form of a letter that said something about varying elevations, and I don't know if that's actually a concern, an issue, but it doesn't sound like that's something that you're aware of, so.
Okay.
Okay, and then the other question I have is, we had a question about how long the construction would take and when the building would be ready to be used.
So the building will be occupied as soon as it's completed, and construction, depending upon the approval of the city with the building plans, we would start immediately. We've already have contracts in place and plans drawn up to submit as soon as we receive approval.
Okay, and how long do you think that the construction would
Right
take?
now, we're planning on around 9 months.
Okay, 9 months?
Hopefully sooner, but given today's environment and everything else that's happening,
That'd be super impressive.
we've got a great general contractor we're working with.
Great, okay. Any other questions? I know there were some questions about there was a concern about the dumpster, but I think that meets all the code requirements, and so, based on what Riley was saying, so just about maybe smells to the neighbors or like wasps being around the dumpster, but I think that probably you've done your due diligence there, so, okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe there are restrictions on that trash compactor being closer to the road, to the public road as well. So really, our options are somewhat limited
Yeah.
as to where it can go.
That's what I was looking at. I think that, yeah, that there's not a lot of other options, but it looks like you're 25 feet off the property line, so I think that was the code requirement, so. Okay,
Perfect.
thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone, well, you guys don't have any other questions? Aaron, did you have anything you want to say about that sewer lift?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Chair, members of the commission, we are in the process of actually adding a sewer line connection that bores underneath the railroad and State Street, right there at the Macy's entrance. You've probably all seen it as you pass by. It's been there for a while. They had to open up the pits. We had some delays with the concrete shortages and other things like that with getting everything ready. We finally got that done, and that bore is actually complete. And what happened is as we were starting this process, for some reason we didn't know this, as we were working with the people, the AmSource, who's the property owner of the Macy's parcel, their lender has a condition of their lease or whatever, the mortgage or whatever you would call it, where they have to approve all interests on the property, which them changing the use, which what was happening is the city's going to accept some of their private sewer as public sewer so that we can then take our public sewer through their parking lot and then out to PG Boulevard and of course down to TSSD. Going through that process, we were originally told that we have no clue when this lender is going to come through, when things are going to happen. So we went ahead and, reached out to the applicant and said, look, we're sorry about this, obviously, because they had submitted plans before just with a single thing. This was already in the works, right? We just started construction. And we could, because we were told this lender could take months or who knows how long, right? It's not an urgent thing for them, so we had no clue how long they would take. Like he said, we did receive word today that their lender is on board with it. They've accepted it. AmSource's attorneys have reviewed it, and actually the agreement is set to go forward to the city council next Tuesday and be approved so that we don't delay our contractor and then have to pay more money in mobilization costs or other things. So by the time their project gets approved, we should be to the point where they're just doing that first option and it won't be an issue.
So it will be banded by...
We're expecting it to be so.
Any questions for Aaron? All right, seeing that this is a public hearing, we will open it up for public comment. If anyone has any comments, just to be aware, we have received one comment or a letter with public comments that we've reviewed, so we're aware of that. And so we invite you to come up and voice your concerns, ask questions, remember to keeping them brief, and also avoiding repetition. So if someone's already voiced your concern, just know that we've heard that, and we'll take that into consideration. So with that, we'll open that up if anyone wants to come up and make any comments or ask any questions. Just state your name for the record, please.
Matthew Hellstone, 1023 West. It's just behind the lot there, one of the homes that are behind the lot.
Yeah, I have a pointer for you.
Yeah.
Right, around 500 North.
Oh, you're good. You want me to point? Is it
Push on the top of that. There's a button there.
not in my eyes like that? I'm just kidding. Oh, I got it. There you go. Okay, so this is my home right there. Not the corner one, but the one next to it. Am I shaking? No, I don't know.
No,
It's
it's
just me.
it's super hard to hold. I'm just gonna tell you.
Just kidding. Yeah, it's my first time in the planning commission, so help me understand the protocol and everything. But And I want to first acknowledge and appreciate Riley for getting the packet of information that I asked and she emailed, as well as the associate of Jacob Bryant did come around and ask questions, and I appreciate that they made that effort to be sensitive to our needs and concerns that we had. So, and I want to acknowledge and appreciate that the builder is doing. This is an interesting lot, you know, being there since 2001 and seeing a lot of happen to that. Us in the neighborhood, forgive me for giving a little bit of history, there was going to be high density residential there, and all of us were like, please no, we don't want that. We don't want it to be more like the Garden Drive that's kind of west of 1300. Not that that's necessarily bad, but we felt like that our neighborhood was more single house dwelling, and we wanted to not have the high density residential there. It was zoned as commercial general. You know, we thought that that was better than the high density residential, and then the lot, you know, kept, I'm not sure exactly all the needs of the city code that needed to be met. We thought, at least I heard anyway, that you had to have 2 ways to exit on the 2 streets. If there's only one road, you needed another exit, and because of the marshland that was west of the rural lots there on the corner of State and 1300, that was a problem trying to get another street going that direction. I'm not sure if that's still a concern for the city or what to do about that particular area. See, that was the one concern, and I can't think of the other concern all of a sudden, but and the property that's also just west there, which is the Bocut family, we had no idea when they would sell that lot, but being a dead end there on 500 North, as you can see, it would be really nice to extend the neighborhood and have a nice residential area was our hope, I think, as the neighbors, right? And so anyway, I think the zoning of commercial general was kind of a stopgap, and then nothing was there. We knew it could be done. And so here we are today, just trying to find, you know, what we can do in that regard, but seeing the opportunity for the neighborhood to extend as it is if that lot sells. I'm not sure what to do about the marshland again, right? And having an outlet, or if we don't need an outlet in residential, what to do there. Anyway, I don't want to belabor that point. Concerns about the building, the height of the building being 3 stories high, and that's as high as the doTERRA building that's over there in the commercial area. And that's significantly high with windows and privacy concerns on the residential area. We don't know what type of workers would be there. We don't know them. They would have a lot of visibility into the area, watching, you know, when we would leave or come and seeing patterns of the home. I think that's another concern that we have for our safety as well as our privacy. So that's something to consider in terms of having us be a commercial general area. I appreciate the builder being sensitive to create a wall, a fence, a cement wall in the very back. We have other neighbors that we've talked to that line the fence of the theater area, and the fence, I'm not sure what the protocol there is, if 8 feet is a general height that's like standard to ask for a wall in this type of a situation for commercial against residential. They did say that it measured about 7.5 feet from the ground. Maybe when it was first installed, it was 8. And so if we could get it higher, if the project goes through, that might be nice to give us a little more privacy, 9 or 10 feet maybe, to make sure that it's high enough there that we give that non-visibility or ability to climb just a little bit of a deterrent. So that's something that we would like to propose, and maybe, you know, I guess we all have our own agreement with the builder of how high and what to do with our backline fence. Another concern is if they do take out the fences, making sure that it's contiguous with the side fences of the yards, the yards that we have, right? That there's no holes that we have to fill as well to make sure that it comes all the way back to the cement wall. Anyway, so my personal opinion is that if we could make it more of an all contiguous residential area, I think the theaters is more an amenable commercial zoning for families. Families frequent the theaters. It's more of a family-friendly commercial zoning. I think we're more okay with that than this tall 3-story building. Anyway, I would also ask, I'm not sure if I only get one chance to speak, is that true? Okay, so I
Depends on how long you keep going.
you can say he has to stop. I would like to also propose an adverse decision to maybe have some time to gather signatures in the neighborhood, to go talk to more residents about the project, to see if we can get some signatures in a petition to say, you know, that this isn't something that we would like in the neighborhood. I would
So
ask
can I
for
speak
time.
to, say, let me speak to a couple of these things that you've brought up, and really, because we were just talking. Yeah. Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is we're talking about some of the stuff that, where you said you hadn't been to a planning commission before, like some of the things that we as a planning commission can and can't do, and the applicant can and can't do. So there's rules and laws within the city what the zoning is. Whether it's 8 feet, we can't tell him to do it 10. As long as he goes 8 feet, that's what the code is.
I see.
So that's where it's at, right? So the applicant is following the stuff that's within that zone. Whether he builds it, he can build it 50 feet. It's like a house. A residential house can be 35 feet tall. Doesn't mean you have to build one 35 feet, but anybody can build on their property at 35 feet. So if he can build it 50 feet, because that's what the zoning requires, he can build it 50 feet. And we can't legally actually tell him no, because it's within the code and that's what's falling within code. When you're talking about other properties, that's what isn't here today, right? The applicant has these specific things that are here today, and that's the only thing that we can truly address, right? So some of the stuff is like, as a planning commission, we just make sure that the code that is written within the city is followed and meets those guidelines, right? That he's got the right setbacks for his garbage cans, that the building's sitting in the right place, there's a certain amount of square footage that has to be done, he's got to have so many parking stalls based off the square footage of the building. But if he fits within all of that, then we legally can't even tell him no, because he's followed all this stuff.
I mean, if he were seeking exceptions or special use
Right.
permits, then we might impose conditions, but that's not happening here.
Right.
This is, everything meets the code.
So, and as far as I understand, as far as the height of the fence, usually it's based off, because he's installing it, on his grade. And so even if he pulls that did I lose it? Oh, if he pulls that fence into his property, it's gonna be 8 feet off that fence, or off that grade. He can't go lower, that's the biggest thing, he can't go lower. If they wanna go higher, that's up to them, but we can't impose an additional expense on him to do that if he meets what the code is, and that's what the code's there. Is it prudent for him to say, hey, we're gonna put this fence in, and maybe we've made a gap between your fences, and we'll come back and repair, the 6 feet of wood to attach up to the masonry fence? Sure, he could do that as a good neighbor, those kind of things. So all I'm trying to do is explain to you that we don't determine where the rest of that goes until that property owner that is to the west, if they ever wanted to sell or develop their property, then that's when that would come in. And right now it's RR, which is rural residential, and they would have to change the zoning, change something, subdivide it, which who knows when that would actually happen. So I'm not trying to cut your comments off. I just wanted to explain what we can and can't do. So when you're asking us to do stuff, there's some of the things you're asking, we just can't even address it.
I appreciate that. I
Right.
appreciate that a lot.
Yeah.
And telling where you guys have, authority and decision, what you're deciding, and I'm just telling you my druthers. I guess,
Sure, sure.
I'm
And
being
and
heard here, right?
and you
I have-
can.
I have the pulpit, I
Right.
guess you could say. I'm saying that.
Right.
But I appreciate that, right? And absolutely, talking to the applicant, to Jacob and Bryant, and say, can we have it taller? Is that cool? And, obviously, if it's not in his best interest, then he can say no, and that's fine, and that's according to code, we understand that, so,
Right.
and appreciate that, right? And
Right.
I do I thought the building wasn't gonna be facing us in terms of the entrance, you know, and that's fine too. That probably makes sense in terms of the setbacks and everything. And I really appreciate all the foliage design and everything that they really did to make it look nice and to protect. One of the other neighbors of an adjoining lot to the theaters said that the trees were nice, except in the wintertime when they didn't have any leaves and you could see right through them anyway. And so
Right.
I'm not sure if there's, but I don't know any other types of trees, you know, that would be good to put there, you know, but that's just the situation is, and they're doing their best, which is appreciated. So for me, my only comment to what you've explained is that being a planning commission, giving our residential view of what we see and would like and help in your regard in helping us plan that type of a neighborhood if possible as a planning commission to see, we see this as an idea, if we could help zone that, you know, since the properties are now becoming available to the west that have been rural, but looks like they have for sale signs and things are being changed to help us zone it for the right way so that we build the neighborhood in that regard, giving our opinion that
So
would
when
be
that,
nice.
when that would actually happen is when that property owner wants to sell or they want to change the zoning.
It would
So
have-
they'll fill out an application to do a zoning change, you'll be notified again, and that's when that meeting is when you come to say, hey, because they're applying for a zone change.
How close do you need to be to a property to get the notice of the rezoning?
300 feet.
So I may not be,
No, you're
it's
definitely,
300
you're
feet.
definitely
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
within
okay.
300 feet. They'll go right there, they do a 300-foot circle, and they send out a postcard. So even if you're not, I promise you, your neighbors will. Plus, there's usually a posted notification, and I know that nobody ever looks at them, but every one of these meetings, the agenda's there on every week, right?
sure. Thank you for the notices, just
Right.
by the way. That's really awesome
Right.
courtesy that you give to the residents, and that helps us know when we can participate, because I'm sure there's lots of things happening every week, right? Anyway, I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
Just so you understand too, see how this 500 North that you live on, see how it just dead ends? There's some sort of a general plan,
Vicinity plan.
yeah, vicinity plan, thank you, of that road continuing in some aspect. Now, that doesn't mean that necessarily stays here. The applicant that was here just a little while ago, Denny, that subdivision, he was in here multiple times because they changed the vicinity plan and stuff like that on it. And so there is an overall general somewhat plan where that road goes to. Who knows? I don't know. But there is a vicinity plan and you can probably direct them to that, correct?
Would that be maybe even according to a builder, if a residential builder came in? Or
No.
You guys say this is what the plan is and
Well,
with the
we
road
say this
design?
is what we'd like to see happen, and then they can come in and propose a change to that, but we have a general vision for what should happen to allow for connectivity between properties and things like that, so.
Yeah.
And the goal of that plan is to make sure that there aren't any undevelopable properties left, that they don't leave islands, and that there's enough connectivity so that people can get where they need to go. So they might change something that's a through street to a cul-de-sac or something like that, but in the long run, your road won't stay the same as it is because it just dead ends right now, and there would need to at least be a cul-de-sac on the end of it.
They also aren't done every year, so it may be what's there may be a little antiquated with the development that's happened, so they are updated, every 10 years-ish?
Ideally.
Yeah, ideally. So it would be a good recommendation for you to go take a look and see what's there, and
Can I request, Riley, could you send me a copy of that?
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Okay, thank you very much. And can I go back to my point of having time for a petition?
Well, so what Tim was explaining earlier is that the decision that we're making here is not the kind of decision that that the popularity matters for it, right? So that zoning stuff that you're talking about, that's that kind of decision, what we call a legislative decision. So that'll come to us, that'll come to the city council, and that's a decision made based on what's in the best interest of the city and the residents. This kind of decision here is, are they following the rules? And if it's yes, then it's approved. The rules are already set there. We can't change the rules midstream after they've already made an application. So
So I know it's kind of awkward for me to ask with everybody, with the builder in the room and everything, but can you give me some guidance into when would be an appropriate time to be able to do a petition, go to a city council meeting after this? Does it go to them to be ratified or anything like that?
Not this
These
one.
items won't be, they'll just, they're approved by us and by the community development director. These particular items, the zoning stuff, you could talk to the city council now about that, if that's something you're concerned. We have a long-term general plan that shows kind of the idea of what the zoning would be. That can change. And then also for the specific zoning decisions, if the city council are aware of how the neighborhood feels, then that will influence what they decide to do when that eventually happens.
But for this applicant now,
For this-
and the parcel that he's developing, no, there's nothing you could do. It's too late.
It's zoned as
It's zoned back.
general commercial, and so we have to follow the rules that are set in the code that allow him to do what he's allowed to do. And
Sure.
if he's meeting those, if we tick off all those boxes and he's meeting those requirements, then all we are legally bound to do is say, okay,
Absolutely.
so.
Yeah.
And then he's got to go get a building permit, right? Make sure that it fits within that, but everything here seems like it's going to happen.
Okay. Can I, if you don't have any more questions for me, I'm not going to be able to come up again, so I'm just trying to think of anything else that I can, talk about. But I think I'm all talked out,
Yeah.
so I think
And-
that's all my concerns that I had.
And I don't want you to feel like I was just trying to stop you. It's just, we have a lot of people, because most citizens don't see this process. And so a lot of times they just don't fully understand what's happening. So it wasn't just directed to you, it's for everybody to fully understand what a planning commission does. We're more an administrative body, where the city council is the legislative body. But it's just like if it was a residential house and I was building right next to you and I followed all the codes, I can do that, right?
Right.
And it's a similar kind of thing. The zoning is for that. The applicant's applied for this. He's fitting all this stuff, the setbacks, the garbage can, the building, the number of parking stalls, so he can do it.
Yeah, I appreciate all the padded area, right? The setbacks and
Yeah.
the landscaping ideas and everything were really awesome. So
Right.
I really appreciate all that the builder is doing to accommodate that even further than the code was, right? So that's
Sure.
been very, very nice. All right, I think I'm finished. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you.
That was a great primer, Commissioner Clyde, on what we do. And I know that is frustrating because I know you come and we encourage you to come and voice your opinions, but a lot of times there's not anything we can do about your concerns at this point because of what we're legally bound by, the things we're legally bound by. So it is good to understand that. And with that, does anyone else have any comments? Do not let that deter you from your comments.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Christiana Phillips. I live in the house right next door to Matthew Hellstone, 1029. And if you want, I can point at it, but it's right next door. And we've lived there for 3 years now, and my family and I. And we didn't know what was going on. We didn't get notified. At least, I think someone asked us how we would feel, and I think we said not happy, but not like there's anything we could really do about that. But I was shocked to learn that it was happening after all of the construction had happened, after our view out our back door was completely demolished and all the trees taken away for our privacy that were there. I know we don't own that property, and I know that's all part of it, and I really appreciate what the owners are trying to do in all of their plans, but it was a big shock to hear what was going on behind in our backyard. And we're very concerned about it. And we're hoping there's anything we can do to change. I know, like you said, it's too late to change the zoning, but if there's a possibility of us maybe finding a couple things that are not on the list for the good of our neighborhood. We're concerned about crime rates. We're concerned about people working and staring into our backyards from the windows facing our yards from a much higher standpoint than where we are. I mean, you guys can understand the feelings and the fears. So I'm just wondering, I have a few questions, if that's okay. And I could be totally off, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating from my lack of knowledge. But the dumpster, was there a rule how close that dumpster could be to a residential area?
Yes.
Just
within
25
25
feet.
feet.
25
which they
feet.
meet.
The Richardsons live right there next to the dumpster where it's being put, right up against, it looks like right up against the fence. Is that 25 feet?
No, it's
Right.
25
not
feet
against
back.
the fence.
It's not against
It's-
the fence.
It's
Sorry.
at least 25
The
feet
sea laser.
away. Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Sea
I'm just picking because I saw a few concerns. I hope that's
laser. No,
okay.
it's fine, that's fine.
And I hope I'm not being rude. I saw a
this
few
right here?
concerns. Yes.
That's the dumpster.
Oh, okay, so not in the very corner.
No,
But
no.
placed away from it. I see that now. And then where was the exits and entrances to this?
So there's one right here,
Uh-huh.
and there's one right there.
So it will be heading out across the railroad tracks right before the Bowcutt's property?
No.
No,
It will be onto Garden Drive,
Drive.
so they'll have to go out
Between the
past Water
railroad and
Gardens.
the state
Yes.
street? Wow, I didn't even know you could do that. Okay,
So they'll extend
We'll
that.
extend
All
Garden
right.
Drive, yeah. through the
okay,
front.
sounds good. All right, well, I guess if you say there's absolutely nothing we can do, I was hoping that we could maybe postpone it long enough to try to rezone the area to residential, to maintain the integrity of our neighborhood as a residential area. So we're hoping it would help bring up the neighborhood to have more single-family homes, but
So
there's nothing that can be done.
The process of that is the applicant, because he owns the property, would have to apply.
You
to
mean the
make a-
Bowcutt's? Oh,
To
you mean
change
the
the
applicant
zoning.
to
The
this
applicant.
property? I see.
Would have to change to, would
Which
have
he
to apply
doesn't
to
obviously have
change
to
to turn it to residential, which
Okay.
obviously they're not wanting to do that. They're wanting to build a building.
Okay, all right, well, thank you. At least we feel like we did everything
Yes.
we could. I
Yep.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you. All right, anyone else have any comment? Oh, sorry,
Ryan does.
Riley.
Can I clarify something just real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the construction that's going on the property right now is not construction of this building. That's related
The
to the
sewer.
sewer
Yeah,
issues
exactly.
that we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, do you understand that the construction that's currently happening isn't related to this building? Okay. But do you want to approach? Sorry, we just want to get you on record.
Just to clarify that comment, we have removed some trees,
Yes,
and
but we'll be replacing.
yeah, we obviously have a landscape plan to bring in a lot more trees. Those trees were trash trees, and the removal of those trees is unrelated to the dumpster or
Right.
the sewer lift station.
Right.
But so everybody understands, the construction of the building hasn't happened because he
Correct.
hasn't got this done to actually apply for a permit to build the building.
That's correct.
Yes.
That's correct.
So yeah,
Okay.
no construction is happening by the applicant right now. Anything that you're seeing right now is because of the sewer situation. And there were some trees removed, but just to be aware that based on the site plan, those are all going to be, there's going to be trees replaced along that back fence. So you'll have to approach again.
I'm sorry. So the materials that have been placed on the property, that's not considered starting construction on the property?
No.
I'm not aware of any materials being placed on the property, but no, I wouldn't.
No,
think
that
so.
wouldn't make a difference if all of the material, or a good portion of the materials have been placed on the property?
So he has to get this approved.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're going into a lot more detail, but this is just so everybody fully understands, because a lot of times people sometimes leave and they're frustrated because they don't fully understand the process. But he has to get this approved so that he can actually go to the process. He's talked about getting some engineering and stuff done. Then he has to submit the plans to get a building permit to actually start construction.
Right.
The only thing that has surprised me all night is they can build that building in 9 months.
That's impressive.
That's it. If he pulls it off, you're the man.
Tim and I have a side bet.
Yeah.
The over-under's 11 and a half.
So,
For example, a property owner can remove trees on their property without a building permit, right? You could
I
remove a
understand
tree
that.
on yours,
Yeah.
and they can
For sure.
remove theirs if they feel like it.
But the goal is to replace them with prettier trees.
That would be
So
wonderful.
That should be a good. All
All right,
right.
thank you.
You bet. Okay, any other comment from the public?
Ben's gonna take the over.
Ben Stanley, I'm Pleasant Grove resident. I've received comments and contact on this development from residents of the city, and I think one thing that's of a frustration to the public a little bit is that they get a legal notice of this particular meeting mandated by state code that invites them to come and give their feedback, and they're being told that their feedback doesn't matter at this stage. One thing that would be helpful, I think, for the public to understand and might be worth sharing is a little bit about the process of who approves the building permit? Is that done purely within community development, or is there any legislative act involved in the approval of
It's
the?
building department.
All handled by the building department. And so for a lot of the public, I think that's a source of frustration, as they get the legal notice late in the process, and it's mandated by state law for open and public meetings to come and speak. And as a attorney, I've advised a lot of planning commissions and a lot of governments on these kinds of issues, and commend you for doing it according to state law, but also want to empathize with the public and understand. And I get those calls from people when they're frustrated because I see things happening that they're very upset about. And so I would encourage you to, early in the process, I mean, there's nothing in state code that limits the amount of notice you can give, and you can give residents notice. For a lot of them, this was not commercial at the time they purchased their home, right? They didn't know that it would become commercial later. They didn't get enough notice at the time to be aware and involved in the process of the rezone when it became a commercial section. And now, at this stage, they're getting a legal notice inviting them to come when they're being told their comments don't matter. So, and I, of course, I understand what public clamor is about and what you can and can't consider, but it's a consideration I would urge the Planning Commission, the city in general, to think about earlier opportunities to let the public be involved in the process when their voice does matter.
Ben, can I ask you what you think considered to be enough notice?
Well, certainly at the stage of the rezoning, it would have been nice for some of these residents who bought when it was not zoned as commercial and they had a different expectation of what would be in their neighborhood someday if it ever developed. It would have been very nice for some of them that have told me that it was not commercial at the time that they bought their home, and then it became commercial at some point and they weren't aware of that change.
But they should have received notice before that change was made.
They
So-
should have. And if it's, and if there was a failure of sufficiency of notice, they may have some legal claims or some opportunities to derail the process through the court system. But the reality is, for a lot of them, there are things that they have concerns about, and they're coming at a stage when they've got the first notice that they've ever seen, and they're being told that there's no options for them. So it's an unfortunate situation that I would encourage us as a city to do all that we can to avoid in the future.
I don't know the history of the lot.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't either.
how long has it been zoned commercial? I would have assumed it's been zoned commercial forever, but are you saying
No, it
that's
has
not the
been
case?
years, but
It's probably been 5, maybe 10 years. It's been a while. It's been zoned commercial.
As the applicant, we did not change the zone to
Right.
Right.
property as commercial.
Right. Yeah, it's been and we're required as a city to provide that notice within a certain amount of time. And so, because we get this all the time where people say, I didn't know it was happening, but they may have received the postcard and not realize that's what it was, or not notice the postings. And I don't know, like, at a certain point, what more you can do, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
I get your concerns, and we feel that because we obviously get the concerns. We have to address those, and there's sometimes a lot we can't do. But the notification requirements are set up by law, and we follow those as a city. And so it's just always interesting when you say that we need to do more. But I want to know what that means to you, or what that means to a citizen that wants to see a change with that. Because that's easy to complain about, but unless we actually have some concrete ideas about what more is, and then maybe fight or work to change that, then that would be more constructive, right?
Yeah, I agree. And I think there are times that the city has failed to provide the legally mandated notice historically. I'm not saying that happened in this particular project, but it happens. I've seen it happen in cities from time to time. It's unfortunate when it does. My advice is simply that the legal requirements are the bare minimum, and to the extent that the public can be aware at stages when it's most important to actually get engaged in the conversation would be of benefit. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? All right, seeing no further public comment, we'll close the public comment, and we'll bring it back up to the commissioners to discuss this issue, or these two items.
I'd like to say one thing before we, just in terms of the right time to get involved in these kinds of decisions. The city has a planning process. We have a general plan that's on the website. It has maps that show the future use of vacant properties in general terms. And so if you go and look at that, it'll show that the entire corridor along State Street is planned for commercial uses, for example. The city updates that general plan every few years. I believe we're looking at updating it again this year. In 2015, we sent out a survey in the utility bill and got about 150 responses from the entire city. We held public meetings and had about 12 people come to comment on the future of the city. That's the right time to get involved in these kinds of decisions. Yes, you can come and comment when there's a zone change and you can have influence there. But in general, the right time to get involved is when the city is planning. So few people get involved in that your voice can have a really big impact at that point. So when you see that, when you open up your city bill this summer and there's a notice in the newsletter that says we're having a meeting on the future of the city at the rec center, come to that meeting. That's where you can actually make a big difference.
Great, thanks, Commissioner Still, appreciate that. Sorry, public comment is closed. I do have one question for Riley, though. So Garden Drive is going to be extended, obviously. Is there a plan, and maybe, Aaron, you haven't answered this, but is there a plan to connect that to 13th West eventually? Garden Drive?
I'm not sure. So this is what our vicinity plan shows currently, is that Garden Drive is going to be extended to here, and then it will come into this development, and at that point, then it may or may not extend to 1300 West. 500 North is planned to extend to 1300 West when these properties developed, unless there's like significant changes in the vicinity plan.
Great, that's good to know. Okay.
Commissioner, and
Yes.
members of the council, or commission, just so you know, yes, I've been hearing talks recently as well that there is the plans to connect that. It would either connect to 500 North, or 500 North would connect to it, vice versa, one way or another at 1300 eventually. And that, I don't know for sure because I didn't pull it up, but I believe that's probably shown on the transportation master plan as well, unless it's just a local road, in which case it might not be, but.
All right. Yeah, I feel like, I understand that there are concerns, but I feel like just as, from my review, that the developers met all the code requirements, and so it would be, I feel like that all of those requirements are met, and so I don't have any major glaring concerns with respect to that.
I'll make a motion.
Are you gonna do both of them or one?
We'll just do one at a time, right?
One at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll start with the subdivision plat.
Great, thanks.
I move the Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval for the request of Jacob Bryant for the subdivision plat called Yak Office Building Subdivision Plat A on property located at approximately 1044 West Garden Drive in the CG General Commercial Zone, adopting the exhibits, conditions, and findings of the staff report with the condition that all final planning and fire department requirements are met.
I'll second it.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Still and a second by Commissioner Phillips to approve item 3 on the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, that item passes. I'll entertain a motion for item 4.
Remember in the motion to make the condition about the sewer.
Yes, the sewer. And can we modify that since it looks like it's not going, that it is going to be abandoned? Is that correct?
Yeah.
I feel like since it's not 100% approved, maybe we should just leave it.
Just leave it?
as it is.
All right, yeah, it does cover both contingencies, so, all right,
I can make that motion as well.
okay.
I move the Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval for the request of Jacob Bryant for the proposed site plan on property located at approximately 1044 West Garden Drive in the CG General Commercial Zone, adopting the exhibits, conditions, and findings of the staff report with the conditions that 1, all final planning, engineering, and fire department requirements are met, and 2, if the existing sewer lift station located on the east end of the property has been abandoned by the city before construction of the sewer connection, then the developer must connect to the new sewer on Garden Drive. If the sewer lift station has not been abandoned by the city, then the developer must connect upstream of the lift station through a new manhole installed by the developer.
And that all final,
I said that
oh, you already
first.
said that?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Great. We have a motion by Commissioner Still and a second by Commissioner Clyde to approve item 4 on the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, with that, the item passes. Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Sorry for the frustration. Appreciate your involvement. Oh, okay, I missed that. All right, we're going to move to item 5, which is a public hearing to consider a request of Ridgepoint Management Group LLC, Susan Palmer, for a site plan for two three-story multi-tenant professional office buildings on property located at approximately 1877 West State Street in the Grove Zone Commercial Subdistrict. Whoa, okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
The request is for a site plan for units A and B in the Battle Creek Business Park. This is a continuation of what we discussed at the previous meeting. It's located approximately 877 West State Street in the Grove Commercial Sales Subdistrict. Here's an aerial image of the property, and here is a zoning image of the property. On June 27, 2019, the first phase of this project, Battle Creek Business Park, received recommendation of approval from the Planning Commission. This phase included a plat called Battle Creek Business Park Plat A, an expandable condominium subdivision, and site plans for units A and B. The approved Plat A, included only a portion of the project, including units A and B. Since it has been over a year since that approval was given, the approval has expired, and that is why this item is being reheard by the Planning Commission. A new subdivision that encompassed the entire project area, Battle Creek Business Park Plat B, received a recommendation of approval from the Planning Commission at the previous meeting held on April 29th. So I know there was some questions about where this easement was going to be on North County, so I threw that in this presentation so you guys could see where that's at. So this is the approved plat. It divided the entire project area into 6 lots. Each of these 6 lots will have a 3-story multi-tenant professional office building. At the previous meeting, the site plan for units C, D, E, and F, which are the 4 northernmost buildings, received a recommendation of approval from the Planning Commission. Units A and B will occupy lot 1 and 2 of this approved subdivision, Battle Creek Business Park Plat B. So here's the proposed site plan for units A and B. The required setback for these buildings is 25 feet and is measured from State Street, and there's no side or rear setbacks required. The parking needs for this site were estimated based on the ratio of 1 stall per 300 square feet of gross square feet for professional office area. Each building is about 19,570 square feet divided between 3 floors. With 2 buildings, the total square footage is 39,140 square feet, so at least 131 spaces are required. The proposed site plan meets this requirement by providing 135 stalls with 5 ADA compliant stalls and meets off-street parking requirements. Here's the landscaping plan that has been provided for the site. Landscaping requirements in the Grove Zone Commercial Sales Subdistrict require a mix of landscape elements and 1 tree per 1,000 square feet of required landscaped area, and 30% of all required, or the total number of required trees must be evergreen. The proposed site plan contains 49 trees total, 15 of which are evergreen, which is about 31%, and meets landscape requirements for this zone. The site plan has been reviewed by the Design Review Board, who recommended approval and found that the site and buildings meet the requirements for urban design as well as building materials and design. The approved building design plan features 3 alternating building designs. As only 2 units are proposed in the site plan for units A and B, only 2 of these 3 designs will be used. The intent is that all 3 of these designs will be used throughout the development. You can see here in the color scheme key that Unit A will have color scheme 3 and Unit B will have color scheme 2. And here are those color schemes for all of them, color scheme 1, 2, and 3. The submitted plans comply with existing city code requirements for landscaping design, setbacks, parking, and all other requirements in the Grove Zone Commercial Sales Subdistrict. And planning staff recommends approval with the following conditions. That CC&Rs are submitted that address utilities, cross-parking, maintenance, and any other necessary requirements. This is also a condition with the previous plat and site plans. And that the Battle Creek Business Park Plat B receives final approval from the City Council.
Can you just remind me, maybe you told us this last time, but why we're hearing these separately?
Why we're hearing them
Why
separately?
why we didn't hear them last?
Yeah,
last-
so I didn't notice them in time. I
Oh,
was
okay.
not aware that we were also rehearing A and B. So we heard C, D, E, and F,
Yeah,
and then I noticed for A and B, and now we're rehearing.
no problem.
A
I
and
just
B.
wanted to make sure there wasn't anything else, any other reason for that, so.
Yep.
Okay, great. Anyone have any other questions for
So
Riley?
you could legally get them notified?
I mean, I followed all of the state noticing requirements.
We know you do. We know you do.
You're a
We-
bare
we-
minimum person, come on now.
It may not be enough, but it's legal. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for Riley? All right, is the applicant here? Would you like to come up and state your name and tell us anything you'd like? And then let us ask you questions.
I'm Susan Palmer, and we had this approved, and the reason that I didn't even know that it had expired because we had to come back and do a PUD rather than a condominium plat. So that's kind of why this kind of got missed. But anyway, we're excited to get going on this and get it approved so we can start building these buildings. It's been a while, so. Any questions that you have, we'll be glad to help you and answer whatever questions you may have.
Great. Does anyone have any questions?
Are you gonna build the buildings in 9 months?
That's what they said, each building 9 months, so it won't be all of them in 9 months, just one building.
Tim is so fascinated by this quick building.
I want building F done in 9 months, because I got an office in there that I'm waiting to fill.
All I can tell you is I work on a lot of commercial projects, and that does not happen right now. Everybody's waiting 9 months for
yeah.
concrete.
Yeah.
Appliances and.
Yes.
Lumber, anything else? Okay, I don't think we have any other questions,
No.
so thank you
Okay.
very much. All right, this is a public hearing, so we will open it up to the public for any questions or comments that you may have. Seeing none, I'll bring it back up for discussion amongst the commissioners, if anyone has any questions or comments.
I would like Dustin to make a motion since he was able to be here.
Since I reneged on the last one, or
Yes.
or recused, maybe a better word.
Okay.
I'll make a motion. I move the planning commission forward a recommendation of approval for the request of Ridgepoint Management Group, Susan Palmer, for the proposed site plan on property at approximately 1877 West State Street in the Grove Zone Commercial Sales Subdistrict, and adopting the exhibits, conditions, and findings of the staff report, and as modified by the conditions below. That CC&Rs will be submitted that address utilities, cross-parking, maintenance, and any other necessary requirements. That Battle Creek Business Park Plat B receive final approval from the City Council, and that all final planning, engineering, and fire department requirements are met.
I'll second it.
Great, I have a motion by Commissioner Phillips and a second by Commissioner Clyde to approve item 5 on the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so the item passes with approval. And that concludes our business for today. Yeah, you bet.
Yep.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve
Review
the
the
minutes.
minutes.
Yeah, has everyone?
I
has anyone
didn't,
looked-
I didn't review them at all,
Haven't
so
either.
I'm not
I
gonna.
looked over. I move that we approve the minutes from the April 29th, 2021 meeting.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Still and a second by Commissioner Phillips to approve the minutes from April, yeah, that's
April
right, April
29th.
27th meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it passes, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will give you a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I would like to also make a comment that I'm very impressed that Aaron stayed the entire meeting this week.